So the two women put their hands on the wooden pointer known as a planchette.
Suddenly, Pearl feels a tug on her hands as they follow a force that seems to be moving the pointer on its own. It appears that someone, or something, is trying to deliver a message. But it's not Pearl's father.
And it spells out the phrase, "Many moons ago I lived. Again I come. Patience Worth is my name."
The women watch in shock as the phantom speaker carries on.
Patience Worth claims she's a 17th century English woman who comes to America and gets killed by Indians in a raid in Nantucket.
Then, according to Pearl, what the stranger says next sends shivers down her spine. The spirit has literary ambitions and wants to channel her writings through Pearl.
She was searching for someone to actually express herself and express her literary desires.
Pearl accepts, and soon the high school dropout reads aloud complex and colorful descriptions of a seemingly bygone era. Her husband dutifully transcribes page after page, which are later typed into the manuscripts, now on display at the Missouri History Museum. Soon, Pearl draws a startling conclusion. Patience is writing poetry.
When people find out that these communications are taking place, word spreads very quickly, and before you know it, neighbors are showing up at the house, and she begins hosting these bi-weekly communication sessions with Patience Worth.
A prominent St. Louis journalist named Casper Yost shows up to one of these sessions and is stunned by the flowery wordcraft by Patience Worth.
And so he begins to write stories about it, further fanning the flames of her popularity.
Yost prints some of Patience's poems, and soon the literary world begins to take notice.
Her poems become published. 5 of them are listed the best in the nation for that year.
And soon the emerging literary darling known as Patience Worth publishes her first novel, a story set in biblical times, entitled A Sorry Tale.
A Sorry Tale gets rave reviews. It's called by the New York Times a literary feat crafted by a master hand. Pearl Curran, literally overnight, goes from this sort of mousy, uneducated housewife to just a literary phenomenon.
But not everyone is convinced. Is Pearl truly communicating with the spirit of Patience Worth? Or is there something more sinister going on?
She had many people who were convinced it was a fake, that Pearl Curran was simply using Patience Worth to build her own celebrity or to try to make money.
But an examination of Pearl's past reveals she may not be capable of perpetrating an elaborate literary hoax.
Pearl Curran dropped out of school at a very young age. She had a very limited education and would have had no knowledge of the advanced literature that Patience Worth seemed to channel through her.
Others question her mental stability.
A number of people began to wonder whether Pearl Curran actually suffered from multiple personality disorder.
Yet friends notice when she channels Patience, Pearl's personality remains the same. While her detractors persist, others, like journalist Casper Yost, are convinced that Pearl is telling the truth and that Patience once existed.
He felt if he could confirm the truth of her identity, then he could prove life after death. So he actually travels across the Atlantic into England, into the area where Patience Worth claims she's from.
Before she immigrated to America, Patience Worth alleges to have lived in Dorset, England, a place she describes in her writings.
But there's no evidence in the public record that she existed.
But as Yost digs further, he comes upon some seemingly familiar scenes.
Yost was able to find a church and the ruins of a monastery that was similar to what Patience had described.
The locations are places Pearl Curran has never visited, and their discovery leaves Yost and others convinced that Pearl is telling the truth, and that the spirit of Patience Worth is real. Over time, Patience's literary star fades, but the conversations between housewife and spirit allegedly continue until Pearl's death in 1937. While we may never know the true identity of the author known as Patience Worth, these 29 volumes at the Missouri History Museum testify to the remarkable tale of a Midwestern housewife who many believe had an extraordinary connection with a scribe from beyond the grave.